Hi, my name is Mark, and we're back to another episode of this interesting lick series, I guess. I sort of record videos in advance depending on what I'm doing, and I don't know what time it is for you now, but at this point in time is, I think, 4th week of quarantine, and just like last week, because I'm stuck at home, I'm trying to practice some things that I don't usually have the time to practice, learn some solos that I've been putting off learning, figuring out some licks I was putting off learning for a while as well. And this lick is a lick that I think is really cool. If not my favorite song, definitely on top 2 or top 3 songs by Eric Johnson, is a little lick from the Manhattan solo. I transcribed a particular version from the G3 live version, but I think it's pretty much played the same way in the record. But here's the lick we're going to figure. And like I always say in these sorts of videos, it's not like that's the fanciest lick Eric has ever played, and it's not like it's the fastest one, or perhaps the lick that you would pick out first to learn. But it's definitely a lick that when I heard it, it perked my ears like, that's cool. And after figuring it out, I think there's a bunch of things you can learn from it and perhaps incorporate into your own playing. So that's what we're going to do in this video. But before we get to it, I just want to say, if you can, please subscribe to the channel and turn on all the notifications. You're probably aware that even if you subscribe to the channel, those channels' videos may really not show up in your subscription box. And even if you ring the little notification bell thingy below, you still will not be notified of that channel's content. So if you want to stay tuned to my videos, not only do I suggest, of course, subscribing and turning on all the notifications, but also following me on social media. Not only do I post some exclusive stuff there, like improvise solos and drum backing tracks, and generally wherever I'm up to at the moment, but I always post about my videos, and I usually post little teasers on my Insta stories about which licks or stuff I'm working on for next video, so yeah, you can go check those out as well. Links for usual suspects will be below, but in general at Guitar, and since you're down there, please consider leaving a like and share this video on social media, I'd highly appreciate it. And because I've received comments about this, yes, I'm in my pajamas because we're in quarantine, I don't leave the house, I don't care about dressing fancy. But okay, getting back to the video itself, I'll play the lick at regular speeds and then I'll play it a little bit slower. Okay, so that's basically the lick, and it has some fancy parts here and there, but in general it's a simple lick that really outlines the chords. So perhaps let's look at those as well. The song is sort of around E flat, so it starts out with an E flat minor 7 chord, and we're playing over that sort of chord first, then we sort of switch to a C minor 7, and then after the C minor 7 we sort of go for like this G flat 7 sort of a thing. Then after that G flat 7 we sort of go for an F minor 7 sort of a thing. And it's not like those are super fancy chords, but it's definitely not just your generic pop song chord progression. I play the more funkified version of it, but even if I just let those chords ring, there are definitely some things that work in there, and maybe some things that don't exactly work as well. If you want to learn how that chord progression works, maybe leave it in the comment section and I'll do another video on it, because this video is much more about the specific lick that Eric plays. But I have some other videos talking about that sort of a thing that you can check out. Just go into the playlist section of my channel and you'll find a bunch of like chord lessons and stuff like that. So yeah, getting back to the lick itself, we start out with something like this. And if you look at it, it's just your regular E flat minor pentatonic. Which makes sense, we're playing over an E flat minor 7 chord, and Eric definitely does that sort of alternate picking pentatonic thing that we all love, so it makes sense that he would go for something like that. Your first part is just like a standard blues lick. But then the next part gets slightly fancy because you'd assume that Eric would just play a standard pentatonic shape up and down. But he actually doesn't play the whole scale. He plays that G flat as a pickup note, and he plays the scale the whole way until he gets to this other G flat on the 3rd string, on the 11th fret, and then instead of just keep playing the scale and going to that A flat, he actually skips that A flat and goes straight to the B flat, and then D flat, and then E flat, and G flat, and that sort of a thing. So the fast part slowly is, and And again, it's definitely not something that you think, oh, that makes the lick super fancy and whatever. But if you're into Eric's playing, or this sort of a lick like I am, where you do a bunch of like 2 note per string sort of things and pentatonic stuff as well, it's very easy to just fall into that trap and say, okay, I need some sort of pentatonic fast run in there. And you just go... or even just down the whole scale. And it's not like there's something wrong with it. But if you think that you're playing the same licks all the time, maybe just skip some notes here and there. Something like that. You don't need to necessarily play that lick, but it was just something I was messing around instead of just playing. Maybe skip that, maybe skip the third note, like. Something like that that can help you get out of that rut. So again, we're staying in that E flat minor 7 sort of chord, and he does that whole blues lick. And then he does this, where he bends from this A flat to B flat, and one would assume would resolve back to G flat, to stay in that sort of E flat sort of tonality. But because the next chord is a C minor 7 chord, instead of resolving to that G flat, he actually resolves to a G, which is the 5th. And if you want to be really fancy about it, since we're now playing over a C minor chord, if we're playing over something like C natural minor or C aeolian, or maybe even C phrygian, even though when we're playing this A flat to B flat sort of a thing, we're still playing over E flat, you can assume that perhaps we are doing some sort of anticipation to the next chord. You can perhaps say that we're just teasing the sound of C minor with a little bit of like C aeolian or C phrygian in there. Again, that's open to interpretation, and that's much more about you finding stuff that you think works and sounds good, and not necessarily being like, oh yes, Eric definitely thought that he would do, trying to imply some sort of phrygian sound or C natural sound to it. Maybe he did, maybe he didn't, but that doesn't really matter. If it sounds good, you can keep it. But in a way, if you know how it works and you're like, oh okay, maybe I do want to tease that sort of C minor sound. Or even if you're able to tell yourself, wait, you know what, maybe I'll just do something that works around E flat and then I can easily change it to C minor by just hitting a different note. Any of those approaches are fine, but it's really more important that you can figure it out by yourself and be like, yes, this is what I want to do. Or I'll just do this because it sounds good. So we do that bend from A flat to B flat and then land on G. And then we do this sort of thing, where you're basically just descending your C minor pentatonic scale. But instead of playing all the notes in the right order, you sort of skip one note. So if we were looking at our C minor pentatonic scale, if we were just going down the scale, we'd probably do G, F, E flat, C, right? But instead of just going like G, F, E flat, we're doing G, we're skipping the F and we're going to E flat. Then we're going to F, which was a note we missed, and we're going to C, and because we're skipping that E flat, which is a note that's in the middle, and we're doing that sort of up and down step movement between the scale or arpeggios or that sort of thing. It's actually a thing that people do in classical music a lot. I think the first time I did something like it was in the Lucretia solo by Megadeth, where Marty Friedman does this like descending B minor arpeggio. But instead of just descending it like a normie, he sort of does that step skipping motion sort of a thing of going like... And even though we start that sort of stop and skip motion with like a C minor pentatonic sort of thing, when we finally get to C, instead of just descending your minor pentatonic, you're actually descending your C natural minor. Which honestly doesn't really change much, you just need to add that A flat in there. And that sort of a thing really outlines well that C minor sound. And after that, we're actually moving for that G flat dominant 7 sort of a thing. And Eric actually outlines it in a very interesting way, because he sort of does this melodic minor alter thing, where he goes... And again, if you want to learn more about the melodic minor scale, or augmented and diminished chords and stuff like that, you can definitely check those out on my channel. I have other videos like that before. And the lick basically is us descending the B melodic minor scale, starting on D, C sharp, B, and then A sharp. And then we do the sort of augmented triad or augmented arpeggio. So until now we have something like... And after that we repeat that arpeggio, but we add the 11th on it. You would just be playing a fancified version of that arpeggio, basically outlining this chord. And And fretting wise, it's just 6, 7, 7, 9, 8. So just this like augmented melodic minor thing to outline the G flat 7 goes something like. And then after that part, he sort of goes down this like D major arpeggio, maybe D7 or D13. Honestly, I couldn't really figure it out, but the way I'm playing it and the way I put in the tab is to do like a D13, so like. And you might be asking yourself, and very well done so, if I'm playing over a G flat 7, why am I outlining something like a D13? And again, it's one of those things that's sort of open to interpretation, but if you think about it, we were playing over that G flat 7 chord, and we were sort of implying that sort of G flat augmented sort of a sound. If you're doing a G flat augmented sort of a thing, because an augmented chord is a symmetrical chord, you could be playing an A sharp augmented chord, and it would be the same notes, or you could be playing a D augmented, and it would be the same notes. So it wouldn't be weird for us to be playing like a D augmented arpeggio. But we're playing a D major sort of a thing. But the difference between a D augmented and a D major is just one note. And if you're thinking about, again, G flat augmented, something like it, if you think about it as this sort of super Locrian sort of a thing, this that we're playing right here, maybe isn't a D major arpeggio anymore, but it's perhaps a G flat augmented sharp 9. Again, maybe as an explanation that's a little bit too fancy, and maybe I'm even overanalyzing this, but the fact that I can do it means that you can probably do it as well and think to yourself, okay, maybe I can do this sort of a thing as well. Maybe if I'm playing over a G flat 7 chord next, maybe I can possibly do like that same sort of arpeggio, like a G flat augmented sharp 9 arpeggio. So again, the whole lick for this G flat 7 sort of a thing starts out like this, with that sort of B melodic minor sort of a thing. Something like it, and again, the next chord is an F minor 7 chord. And for that F minor 7 chord, we basically do this. Which again is pretty much the same shape we were using before for that pseudo D major arpeggio sort of a thing. We're just doing it in C sharp this time, or D flat in this case. And again, if you look at it, we're playing over an F minor 7 chord, and that chord has the notes F, A flat, C, and E flat. And we're hitting that A flat right there, the F right there, and in here we're not really playing a C, we're playing that D flat. But if you think about it, it's just a fancified version of the chord we had before. We had that F minor 7 before, and now we're basically outlining like an F minor 7 flat 13. And again, it's important to do that sort of a sound, to do the slide from G to A flat. And then we finish with that E flat. So it's just something like. And again, that E flat is the 7 of our F minor 7 chord. And because it's an instrumental Eric Johnson tune, he keeps playing, but I ended the lick with there, because I had already thought I was looking at a big chunk of a lick, and it's not like what he plays after it is worse, but by that mindset I could be here transcribing the whole song, so I just did that lick, and we're going to end it at there. So if I play you the lick again, I'll play it a little bit slower, and then perhaps a little bit faster. And again, even if you still think, well, it's not really that fancy, or it's not really this or that sort of thing. Because Eric is not exactly a jazz player. I mean, he can play around it, of course, but it's that sort of thing. If you look at it, this is basically jazz vocabulary that we're handling here. And we're playing over these sort of jazzy chord progressions. And if you think about it, you'll probably be like, well, yeah, but it's not the sort of thing I'm into or anything. Well, maybe it is, maybe it isn't. But if you look at Ericsson's, if you look like a song like Cliffs of Dover, which is pretty much like a pseudo diatonic thing, he does some modulations here and there, but it's much more basic harmony than something like this. But Eric still plays around it, and you can still listen to that solo and that lick and think, well, that's a cool Eric Johnson lick. Sure, maybe it has some things in there that you don't really associate with Eric's playing, but it's definitely one, a cool lick, and a cool approach to playing over these sorts of fancy progressions and chord changes, and be like, okay, so I'm going to use that sort of jazz vocabulary, that sort of jazz technique, but applying it in my own way, in a more rock context way, or in a more bluesy sort of way. You don't really need to go like, okay, I'm playing over E flat, C minor, G flat, and F minor, so I'll just play arpeggios all the way. And it's not like there's even something necessarily wrong with that. But it may not be the sort of thing you want to do. If it is, go for it. But if it isn't and you're thinking, well, I just don't want to be playing boring arpeggios all the time, or I just don't want to be playing scales all the time, this shows that you can send your basically blues vocabulary. But it'd be like, okay, we're going to change to C minor then. Maybe do, I don't know, instead of just going bluesy all the way, maybe we can do some more neoclassical sort of a thing. And then I'm moving to a sort of G flat 7, so maybe I'll do some jazzy things in there, maybe I'll do some augmented arpeggios sort of a thing. Whatever you feel like doing, and then for the F minor, you can do whatever you want, you can even go back to your pentatonic stuff. The sky's the limit with this sort of a thing, but you gotta be able to figure it out on your own and be like, okay, this is what I want to do, or this is the sort of playing style I want to use, or the sort of vocabulary I want to use, and you're like, well, now that I think about it, yeah, that's the sort of thing I want to do. I want to be able to play something bluesy over those changes, so you gotta understand what makes those changes happen, and you gotta understand, okay, what bluesy things can I do here, what bluesy things can I do in there. And again, it's not like this lick is the only lick that does that, but it's an interesting lick that I heard, and I was like, okay, I'm going to share this lick with you guys, teach you how to play it, and maybe you can take it to the next level. And if you do, if you actually try to do any of this sort of stuff, or to learn the lick by yourself and try to add some variations to it or something, please film yourself playing it and post it on Instagram. Not only will I see it, but I'll repost it, because I'd like to see what you guys can come up with and share it as well. But yeah, I guess we can just end it at here. If you think there was something I missed, something I should have said, or if there's something that you think maybe I could explain better or something like it, please leave in the comment section below, and I'll either address it in the comments or I'll do another video on it. And yes, I do receive these comments all the time. Maybe I do speak a little bit too fast for these sorts of videos, but it's just on my nature to do so, and if you think I speak too fast, you can just go into the settings of the YouTube player and slow me down a little bit. Maybe 75% works for you. I understand my accent is not the greatest, I'm not a native English speaker, and most of you guys aren't as well. But either way, you can probably do something about it. I'll try to make an effort, but it's not like I can control myself all the time. And yeah, thank you so very much for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, turn on all the notifications. Follow me on social media if you can, and share this video on social media. I'd highly appreciate it. If you can, check out some of my other videos. I have other videos of interesting licks like this one, and others, like I mentioned before, chord lessons, scale lessons, soloing lessons, stuff like that. You can also check that as well, and some other videos as well. So yeah, I guess we can end it at this. Before I bore to death the ones of you who stayed this far. Yeah, cheers!